Hello, welcome to the training video for the BodyWorks Challenge for this year. This training video will encompass the responsibilities of the regional host, the referees, and the scorekeeper. The primary focus will be for the referees, but I need to go over some of the different aspects of the regional host and their responsibilities as well. So as we sit here, we'll just discuss briefly what the regional host is responsible to do, the head referee and referees. Now, optimistically speaking, everyone's going to take the time to go on the RCX webpage and review the general rules, review the videos, review the documents, the RCX tournament policy, the RCX regional host information packet. If everybody had the time, they would all review all those videos and documents. But realistically, if the regional host can review the information packet and review the tournament policy, those are the two items that the regional host needs to know personally. Now, when we get to the referees, each tournament will have a head referee and referees that are at the board scoring the table, resetting the mission objects, etc. So at least if the head referee can take the time to review the general rules, review the BodyWorks Challenge mission rules, and review the mission videos for the BodyWorks Challenge, this will help in conjunction with this referee training. Most of the information that we will go over today will be kind of specific to the referees and the action at the board and the interaction with the teams. We're not going to go into a lot of detail about general rules and missions and that aspect, but we are going to go into detail for the referee at the table and how to score. So if possible, the head referee needs to review, again, the general rules, the BodyWorks Challenge mission rules, and take the time to go over the videos so that they understand completely what all the missions are for, what's the expectations of the robots, and the performance of team members during the rounds at the BodyWorks Challenge tournaments. The scorekeeper, they also they have limited responsibility as far as judging and whatnot, but the scorekeeper has to interact with the referees when there's mistakes made. So just know that in this segment of the video, in the connecting video segments, the host, the referee, the head referee, the table referees, scorekeepers, they all need to work together, because when one aspect or one person makes a mistake, it typically impacts the other two. And then as far as the teams are involved, the scorekeeper is always under the gun. So when the score is not the expectations of team members, they look at the scorekeeper, and then the scorekeeper has to look back to the referee as to whether or not the information was entered correctly. So it's a partnership among the host, the referees, and the scorekeepers. So just know that the next segment I'm going to go over the missions and different aspects on the board as to how things score. The third section to this, I'm going to do kind of a Q&A in which some of the referees are new, some of the referees are coaches that are very seasoned with this. But the third section of this, I'm going to go over kind of definitions of in and out, on, above, touching, and that stuff, so that when students are performing at the table, the referees feel confident knowing how to judge or how to score the different actions of the robots, and unfortunately how to assess touch penalties for the actions of team members. So at this point, I'm going to end this section and we'll go to section 2, scoring the BodyWorks Challenge on the board. In preparation for your regional tournament, many times the regional host will preset the board and put the mat and the mission objects on the board. The head referee and the referees at the table are responsible to ensure that the mat and the mission objects are placed correctly. So we'll start at the beginning. When you unroll your mat, you're going to recognize that you put it out on the board and it's going to wrinkle or it's going to try to roll back up. The best thing you can do is let the mat rest overnight, then come tomorrow and attach it. Follow the instructions on how to place the mat and the mission objects that are provided in the videos and other Bodyworks Challenge mission documents. But briefly, once the mat has had the opportunity to rest, we now have to make sure that the mat is secured to the board. So as we place the mat, we're going to position the mat such that the mat is against the north wall and the east wall. Let me adjust the camera here to show you. Okie dokie. So basically, when you're looking at your quad, you want to make sure that the mat in the northeast corner is touching the walls in the corner. If the mat is touching the walls on the east side and the north side, you may have a gap of a 1/4 inch or so on the south wall or the east wall, and that is permissible or allowed to have that gap. So once you place your mat against the north wall and the east wall, go ahead and use your dual lock and fasten the mat to the table. Just use your dual lock and place it randomly around the mat. Now I have secured the mat to the board. I have used dual lock around the edges of the mat, the north wall and the east wall. The mat is touching both the north and east wall. And at this time, I'm going to take the mat up. You may think I'm a little crazy, but yes, I'm going to take the mat up. And I'm going to take it up from the southeast corner, and we're just going to peel it back. Alright? We'll peel it back, peel it back, peel it back. And the reason why I'm peeling it back is I'm going to secure the mat in the area of the fractured leg. So in this area, I'm going to take a piece of dual lock, roughly 1 inch long, and I'm going to place it over the D and L marks for dual lock, and I'm going to secure the bottom of the mat for the fractured leg mission object in this area. Now I'm going to roll the mat back. I'm going to put the sides of the mat back in position. So I'm securing the sides of the mat back to where they were originally. We'll go all the way around the board and make sure they're secure. Right? And once I have the entire mat secure, I'm going to come back to the fractured leg and I'm going to press down on the dual lock so that the dual lock is attached firmly to the board and to the mat. This way at the tournament, when the mission object for the fractured leg is placed, you don't have to worry about the mat fluctuating or giving as the robot acts on the mission object. Okay? So at that point, the mat is securely fastened to the board, and now we're going to ensure that the mission objects are located and fixed to the mat correctly. Alright, when the referee first approaches the table, and between each match, they must assure that all the mission objects are present so that the teams competing have the opportunity to run their robots with all the mission objects on the board. So the referee should notice that there's 5 bone marrow that are starting out in the safe zone, 2 kidney stones, which relates back to the choice, mission 8, which typically will start in the safe zone, but depending upon the decision of the team, the kidney stones may start in a different location. We have the heart transplant, we have the 3 white blood cells, and we have the 1 eye. Those items should all be present for the match. Let's continue around the board for additional mission objects. As we get up to the head, you're going to notice red blood cells, and there's 12 of these located throughout the body. The correct location for the referee is to place 1 red blood cell on the mark on the mat. You will notice that the red blood cell is bigger than the outline on the mat. The referee, at his or her discretion, can place the red blood cell right side up, upside down, on its side. As long as the red blood cell is touching any part of that outline, it is in the correct location. So again, if a team member says, "Sir or ma'am, please turn the red blood cell so that it's right side up," it is at the discretion of the referee to place the red blood cell at his or her discretion, right side up, on its side, upside down. It is not the team members, and the referee should not adjust the red blood cell when a team member asks for it to be placed in a certain manner. Again, red blood cells are at the discretion of the referee. Okay, we will continue around, and you will notice I've got my dislocated shoulder with dual lock that needs to be attached. I've got my broken elbow with dual lock that needs to be attached. The base for the heart transplant has dual lock that needs to be attached. And again, all these are outlined on the mat, so the correct placement will just fit right above the outline of the mat. The cracked rib needs dual lock as well. The clogged veins has dual locked, which needs to be attached. The vein for the small one is placed upside down with a mirror image of the mat with the white Lego placing up, and on the opposite side the Lego is placed upside down with the peg sticking out facing up. For the EpiPen, dual lock down, and the pen will be pulled, the needle will be extended as far out as possible, and it will mirror image the outline on the mat. The torn muscles, you will see the L-shaped marks on the mat. The correct placement is to have the Lego cover the black outline of the L. So when you place your Lego, you should no longer see the side of the L. Alright? And that's for all 3 of them. We'll continue over to the fractured leg. Remember, when we place the mat, there's already dual lock under the mat. Now we're going to place additional dual lock on the mission object itself and attach it on the mat. You will need a jig for the score, so place this in your pocket or a convenient location for you to use as you score the mat. As we continue across the mat, make sure that your bacteria, the head should be positioned in an upright location, but throughout the matches it may get angled, it may get twisted. Just know that as a referee, as long as the body of the bacteria is placed underneath the quad, above the outline of the bacteria, it's in its correct location. Let's continue down here to the sprained ankle. The sprained ankle is dual locked, so make sure the dual lock is removed and the mission object is placed directly above. And then finally, we've got the blood sample. Now the blood sample, for the correct location, the arm is angled, if this was a clock, between 11 and 12 o'clock. That is the correct location of the arm. Alright? The blood sample mission object is dual locked. So we will secure that to the mat. We will add the 4 blood samples to the blood sample mission object, and we'll put this on the side so you can see. It's at the referee's discretion to place the blood samples right side up, upside down, on its side, and I'll get that for you right there. See how it's on its side? Or flat. The 4 blood samples must fit within the ends of the tray. So if you put 2 of them on their side, it extends beyond the end of the tray. As a referee, you will have to reposition one and make sure that the blood samples are entirely within the length of the tray. But it is at your discretion, the referee's discretion, not the team's, how to place it. Right side up, upside down, on its side, or diagonal. It is the referee's discretion, not the team's. You do not change how they are positioned if the team requests so. Again, the blood sample mission object is dual locked down above the outline of the blood sample on the mat. And while we're here with the blood sample, notice that the lab extends around the blood sample mission object. The lab is the area, and the black faint line is part of the lab. The black solid inch wide line is not part of the lab for scoring, and I will go into details about that later on. Alright? So at this time, we have gone over the placement of the mat, the placement of the mission objects. If you have any further concerns about its accuracy, please go online and check the videos for the correct placement of the different mission objects. If you're concerned about the construction of the mission objects, go watch the video for the construction of each individual mission object. But at this time, if the referee has checked the placement of the mat, it's dual locked down, possibly double-sided tape, either one's fine, and the placement of the mission objects on the mat, the referee has done its job by checking the mat and the mission objects, and we are set to start the match. Now we're ready for the teams and the competition. We're ready for the match to begin. So at this time, the head referee should instruct teams to go from the staging area to the individual tables. The referees at the tables, once team members approach the table, will ask a couple questions. Okay, at different regions, some regions will use a paper document to keep score. Some regions will use a tablet to keep a electronic scoring sheet. It changes from region to region. But ultimately, when the team approaches, the referee needs to confirm the team, confirm that the information for that specific team is the correct name, correct team number, etc. Okay? So that would be the scorekeeping referee taking care of that information. The second referee at the table is going to ask a question for the team, and that is the challenge question, or the choice, which relates to Mission 8 and the placement of the kidney stones
at the beginning of the match. The scorekeeper will record, either electronically or on paper, the location or whether they choose easy or hard. You don't have to worry about any kind of scoring or anything like that. As a referee, you're just going to answer questions on the score sheet, yes or no, numbers, or some other comments, and that marking on the score sheet will reaffirm for the scorekeeper how to score. The referee has no need to know the point values of the different mission objects and their locations. Just know that the referee needs to record, based on the score sheet, the location of the mission object at its resting point at the end of the match. So let's get back with the kidney stones and the choice. So the team will be asked if they want the easy choice or hard choice. The hard choice, the kidney stones, will start in the safe zone. All the objects in the safe zone are movable at the discretion of the team. The referee needs to just place those objects in the safe zone. Team members may move them at will with their hands. They can move them anywhere within the safe zone or remove them to the extension of safe zone. It's at their discretion. All mission objects, robots, attachments, etc. should always be within the borders of the safe zone or the extension of safe zone. But some leniency should be provided as the kids interact with the robot if they set things outside of the safe zone. Alright? So, when we consider the choice question, the referee will ask the students whether they want the easy choice or hard choice. And the kidney stones placed in the safe zone are the hard choice. And the scorekeeping referee will mark on the score sheet the word hard. If the team says easy, the referee will take the kidney stones from the safe zone and place one kidney stone within the outline of the kidney, right side up. Again, one kidney stone in each kidney, right side up. The location of the kidney stone within the outline of the kidney is at the discretion of the referee. So the referee may place the kidney stones to the front or closest to the safe zone, or to the back furthest away from the safe zone, but the kidney stone must be completely in the outline and right side up, and that's the discretion of the referee. Okay? We will leave those there for further discussion. Alright? The next thing that the referee will ask is mission 1. And mission 1's the IV stand. The referee will take possession of the team's IV stand and ask the questions that are outlined on the score sheet. Basically, the questions are going to be, is it made of Legos, yes or no? Are the IV bags removable, yes or no? And when the referee takes possession, the referee will actually physically take the IV bag off of the IV stand, and then correspondingly will score the appropriate number of IV bags that are removable at that point. So this is all happening before the match starts. All right. So the previous section was the IV stand and the choice, which happened before the match started. Now we're going to discuss the activities of the referee during the match. So the referees will stand back. Envision your hand and your arm. Extend your arm completely out as far as you can. Now, stand next to the board with your fingertips extended as far away as you can. If your fingertips can touch the board, you, the referee, are too close to the table. You need to allow for team members to maneuver completely around the board as they decide or as is necessary for team members. Make sure as a referee you do not obstruct the activities of the team members. So always stand back at least an arm's length away from the board. During the match, the referee will have several responsibilities. First, they're going to monitor the activity of the team members and the robot. And we'll just go down the score sheet to keep it simple here. But the first thing on the score sheet is mentioned is Mission 2, Operating Room Prep. So the IV stand that was presented to the referee can now be used by the team to deliver. The robot can deliver the IV stand to the outline of the IV stand on the mat. The robot must be completely out of the safe zone when it finishes delivering to the IV stand. The IV stand consists of the blue bags and the gray base. So when the IV stand is delivered by the robot, it can be delivered to any part of the blue or gray of the IV stand on the mat. The only limitation is that the robot must be completely out of the safe zone when it finishes delivering the IV stand to its resting spot. Okay? You will not actually score the IV stand until the mat is finished. Just know that you have to monitor the action of the robot as it delivers the IV stand. If the robot is not out of the safe zone when it delivers the IV stand, you will eventually score a no for the IV stand being delivered. The robot must be completely out of the safe zone for the team to receive a score. Alright? Or I'm sorry, that is Mission 2, the delivery of the IV stand for the operating room prep. The next thing that the referee is going to do is monitor the interaction of the students with the robot. And this comes back to the bone marrow. The bone marrow is the touch penalty. Each time a student touches a robot outside of the safe zone, the student must restart the robot in the safe zone. The referee will notify the student that there was a touch penalty assessed. The student will have to replace the robot in the safe zone and restart that run of the robot. The referee will, at a convenient time, take one bone marrow from the board with as minimal interaction with the student as possible. If the referee feels that taking the bone marrow is going to adversely impact the students, wait until later in the match to take the bone marrow from the safe zone. Touch penalties are assessed east wall to west wall. So assuming that the bone marrow is on the mat and a touch penalty is assessed, the referee will take the easternmost bone marrow. So if these three bone marrow are on the mat, and let's just put all five out there, a touch penalty is assessed. Touch penalty 1, referee would take the easternmost. Touch penalty number 2, easternmost. Touch penalty number 3, touch penalty number 4, and touch penalty number 5. Teams may have the bone marrow in the extension of safe zone, in the safe zone, or they may deliver the bone marrow to the pelvis for an increased score. But either way, at the time that the touch penalty is assessed, you take the easternmost bone marrow for the touch penalty. The final thing that the referee is going to watch during the match is he's going to listen to the team, and if the team, and this is the team members at the table, at the board, not team members or coaches behind. Only team members at the table or board can do this. Call time. And if a team member during the match calls time, the referee will look at the clock, make a note of the time on the clock, and then look at the robot. If the robot is still running, in other words, the motors are turning, wheels are turning, arm is lifting and lowering, then the robot is still in action. When the robot completely stops moving, the referee will record the time on the clock when all motoring action has stopped. So a team member could, for argument's sake, call time. The referee looks at the clock and there's a minute on the clock. Well, the robot's still running. So as the robot runs and runs and runs and runs, the clock goes down. It's at 50 seconds. The referee looks at it and the arm's moving. It's still running and running and running. So it may be 30 seconds, 20 seconds, something along those lines before the actual robot stops running after the team member calls time. So just know during the match, the referee has to be aware of time. And when the team member calls time, watch for the action of the robot and then record the final time when the robot stops moving. Okay? If the clock goes to 0, just record 0, 0, 0. After the clock has hit 0, the referee will monitor the robot. Any action of the robot after the clock hits 0, the referee will make a notation, and if an object is active, a mission object is activated or delivered, the team will not get a score after the clock hits 0. Also, after the clock hits 0, if the robot destroys or takes away points from a scoring mission object, the referee will make note of that as well and maintain or retain the ability to give the team a score. Okay, so after the match, the referee will now start with mission 2. Mission 2 on your score sheet is position the eye. The eye can be either in the left eye socket or the right eye socket, partially in the eye socket or completely. Either one is good, partially or completely touching the eye socket. That is mission 3, position the eye. Mission 4, 5, and 7 are mechanically the same. The robot or the mission object starts with the arm in the yellow location or the gray location. And to score, if the very tip is between the 2 black lines on the mat, the referee, and for the cracked rib, any part of the tip. It's kind of wide, so as long as any part of it's in there, it scores. But for mission 4, 5, and 6, if the tip, the yellow tip or gray tip, is between the 2 black lines on the mat, you would mark a yes on the score sheet. If the tip is outside of the black line, you would mark a no. All right? Mission 4, 5, and 7. Mission 6, the heart transplant. The robot must position the heart at the base of the heart transplant. The heart completely in, that's completely in. As long as the heart is not resting on the base in any way, it's considered completely in. Alright, so this would be completely. If it's resting on the base like this, it's partially, partially, partially. As long as any part of the heart, the Legos that represent the heart, are touching the side, it's considered partially. Okay? Now, if it's at the base touching outside, it would look like this. Or like this. As long as the heart is touching outside, is touching the mat outside of the base, you would record at base touching mat outside. Okay? And then finally, if it's not near the base, they didn't attempt it, it's not located anywhere around the base, you would mark not located at base. Okay? So I will return this back to the safe zone. Mission 8, the kidney stones. In the current location, at the end of the match, the scorekeeper and the computer program will tabulate the point value and the location. So at the beginning of the match, the referee would have marked easy or hard on the score sheet. At the end of the match, the referee is going to mark the location of the kidney stones at the end of the match. So for argument's sake, we've got 2 kidney stones inside each kidney. They can be partially or completely in the kidney stones at this point. Okay, so let's just go down the score sheet and identify what each one is. So, if at the end of the match you see 2 kidney stones like this, you would mark 2 in separate kidneys. Okay? If the kidneys are removed and in the safe zone, you would mark 2 in the safe zone. If there is 1 kidney stone in the kidney and 1 kidney stone in the safe zone, you would mark the third choice. If there is 1 kidney in the safe zone, and let's just say 1 kidney not in a kidney anywhere on the mat, you would mark the fourth choice. If there is 0 kidneys in the safe zone and 1 kidney stone in the kidney, you would mark the fifth choice. And then potentially if there's 0 kidney stones in the safe zone and 0 kidney stones in the kidney, you would mark the sixth choice. Now potentially a team may deliver the kidney stones in which 2 kidney stones are in 1 kidney. If this occurs, since only 1 of the kidney stones is allowed to score, you would mark the fifth choice. 0 kidney stones in the safe zone, 1 in the kidney. Okay? Alright, put that there and there. Now I'm going to go back to the bone marrow. If the bone marrow, the teams have the opportunity to deliver the bone marrow to the pelvis for an increased score. Alright? For the referee to score the bone marrow at the end of the match, they're going to do 3 things. First thing they're going to do is they're going to score the touch penalties, and that'll be 1 through 5, or possibly 0 through 5. Next they will score how many bone marrow in the pelvis. And finally they'll score how many bone marrow are anywhere on the mat. Okay? The total number for those 3 questions is 5. You cannot have more than 5. You cannot have less than 5. It's a total of 5. So, let's explain the scoring at the pelvis. The bone marrow can be completely in the white area of the pelvis. It can be partially in the white area of the pelvis and the intestines. It can be standing vertical. It can be on its side. It can be upside down. It can touch the veins and the arteries. The only time that the bone marrow at the pelvis doesn't score is if the bone marrow itself is not touching any part of the white, partially or completely, of the pelvis bone. Notice you've got some leg bones here. If for some reason the bone marrow is in one of the bones of the legs, that is not part of the pelvis. So only the 4, partially, completely, partially, outside of the pelvis. So these 4 would score. This one and that bone doesn't score. Here doesn't score, or there doesn't score for this question. Okay? So the referee has to differentiate between touch penalties, bone marrow in the pelvis, or bone marrow anywhere across the mat. And just remember that those 3 questions total 5. Not less than 5, not more than 5, but 5. Okay? Now, we're going to continue down the mat, and we're going to go to the clogged veins. I'm going to get the bone marrow out of the way. Okay, the clogged veins, there's 2 veins, the small one and the large one, and they must be removed such that the LEGO is not within the base of the clogged veins. So in this demonstration, this one's scoring and this one is not. So on your score sheet, you would put 1. In this position, you would put a 0. In this position, you would put a 2. Alright? Scoring of the fractured leg, mission 10. Teams will reposition the mechanism in a downward position. The referee will take the jig, place it underneath, and then push it through. If the jig touches the arm, then you receive a score. If the jig can pass all the way through, you will answer the question no. If the jig, when you attempt to pass it through, hits the arm, you will answer yes. So as long as the jig cannot pass through, you answer yes. If the jig can pass through, you answer no. Alright? Mission 11, the sprained ankle. Started the match as outlined on the mat. Alright? If by some chance there is destruction with any of the mission objects, you cannot award a score. Okay? So this one in particular, many times the robot will take it off. But for this, the sprained ankle to score, the joint here should be at a right angle. Alright? So if the joint is at a right angle for mission 11, answer yes. If the joint, if you can see any of the yellow beam underneath, then the answer would be no. Okay? Moving on. Mission 12, the torn muscles. Teams need to relocate the muscles into the muscle tissue. As long as the muscle is completely in the red muscle tissue, they receive a score. If the muscle is touching white outside of the body, or the tan of the skin, or white of bone, it does not score. Any muscle tissue counts across the entire body, so teams may relocate the muscle tissue to any location they choose. As the referee, you award a score based on whether the LEGO is completely in red muscle tissue anywhere across the mat. So, if for the torn muscle, 3 of them are in the muscle tissue, you will mark the 3. If 2 of them are completely in the muscle tissue, you'll mark 2. If 1 is in the muscle tissue, 1. And if 0, mark 0. Moving up to the EpiPen. Mission number 13. The EpiPen starts as outlined on the mat, and the robot must activate the EpiPen from the referee's visual perception, looking from above, looking down on the mission object. As long as the tip of the yellow needle is above any body tissue, the skin or the muscle, you would mark a yes. If for some reason a needle is not extended into the body tissues, then you would mark a no. Or actually I should say the blood work at the lab. Mission 14 has points 14A, 14B, 14C, and 14D. Okay, answer the question for 14A. The blood samples are the 4 that are in the tray. So question 1, if there's 4 blood samples in the tray at the end of the match, you would circle the number 4. If there's 3, 2, 1, or 0, circle the corresponding number. If, at the end of the match, the blood sample is touching the mat, again, mark the corresponding number, 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0. If the blood samples are in a petri dish, and for a simple demonstration, I have a Lego that represents my petri dish, and the Legos or the blood samples are within the petri dish. Anywhere on the mat, count the number and put the corresponding number for the number of blood samples in the petri dish. Now a team may use multiple petri dishes, so just know that across the mat, how many blood samples are in the petri dish? 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Anywhere across the mat. Alright? And then finally, the team may recover the blood samples via the petri dish back to the safe zone. So at the end of the match, if the blood samples are in the safe zone, again, mark the corresponding number. 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0. Okay? The next one, 14B, red blood cells. Remember, at the beginning of the match, you placed 12 of these red blood cells across the body in a random position. Teams may recover the red blood cells back to the lab. So, in order to score, the red blood cells are touching the mat and located within the lab. The black line is the outline of the lab. The solid inch-wide line is outside of the lab. So, to be considered in the lab, the red blood cells need to be within the rectangle of the lab. So for this one, we would have 1, 2, 3 completely in the lab, a 4th one partially, which is acceptable, and then a 5th one outside of the lab. So for this demonstration, you're going to record 4 on your score sheet. Teams may reposition all of the red blood cells to the lab. So you may mark a number from 0 through 12 on your score sheet to correspond with the number of red blood cells in the lab. Alright? If teams, for some reason, when they position the red blood cells, place them on the black line against the wall, remember, those items are not scoring because they are outside of the lab. Only if they are partially in would they score. And that goes for partially on the side as well. So in the demonstration in front of you, I've got a partial, I've got a no, a partial, a complete, and a no. So in this demonstration, there's 6 red blood cells. You would mark a 3 for partially in, completely in, partially in. You would mark the 3 on your score sheet. Alright? Alright, mission 14C is the white blood cells. Teams will take a petri dish and they will put the white blood cells in their petri dish. The white blood cells you may have 1 white blood cell in the petri dish, or you may have 3. It's at the discretion of the team. To score, the white blood cell must be in the lab. So, I'm going to put this over on the sides for you to see. Alright, so this white blood cell is completely in. This white blood cell is partially in. Scoot that over a little bit. And this white blood cell is outside of the line. Even though the petri dish is in the lab, the white blood cell is not. So as a referee, you need to know where the white blood cell is located. From above, looking down, give an estimate of the location of the white blood cell. So in my demonstration here, we've got a completely in, partially in, and outside. So for this demonstration, we would score a 2 on the score sheet. If the petri dish is located like this, we would score a 3. And the key to the white blood cells, it cannot touch the mat. So let's just say this demonstration, we've got 2 in a petri dish and 1 touching the mat. Even if it's touching like that, the blood cell is now contaminating the lab. So in this demonstration, this is touching the mat for no score. In the lab, in a petri dish, in the lab, in the petri dish. So on your score sheet, you would mark a 2. Okay? And then for some reason, the team delivers the white blood cells in a petri dish, but it's not within the lab. So in this demonstration, you would score a 0. Just remember, the key to the white blood cells is it cannot touch the mat, it must be in a petri dish of the team's design, and it must be within the boundary of the lab. That's mission 14C. We'll move our white blood cells to the side. 14D is the bacteria. Unfortunately, we have contaminated the lab. So what we're going to do is a team can relocate the bacteria. And the bacteria, to score, only needs to be in the lab. So in for this definition can be touching or it can be hanging over the line. As long as the referee, looking down from above, can see that any part of the bacteria is in the lab area, you would score a yes. Potentially, the head of the bacteria may come apart. If by chance a part of the bacteria is in the lab, the answer is yes. Okay? So to reiterate, the bacteria can be touching the mat or can be above the mat and count for a score. Okay? So in this demonstration, completely in, partially in touching, partially in hanging over, or out. In score, partially in score, above score, out would be a no. Okay? I'll put my bacteria back. Mission 15. You will have to answer the question. First off, let's discover the definition of a minifig. This little guy is a nice character, but he doesn't meet the definition for a minifig for the tournament. This little guy, it can be a human, an animal, any kind of creature, but the definition for a minifig is it must contain a head, a body, and a leg. It must have those 3 parts. Now, they can be created of more than 3 pieces, but to count as a minifig for the competition, a head, a body, and a leg connected together. Sorry, buddy, I gotta get rid of you. So to score, the minifig can be placed on top of the quad. Okay? He should not have any kind of thing attached to him. It should be just a minifig. So if he's got a hammer or a sword or some kind of tool so that he could hang, let's say, that won't count. The minifig should be on top of the quad platform. He can hang over a little bit. We're not going to penalize the kids for that. But he should be on top of the quad platform. And if he scores, you're going to mark minifig only on quad. The next demonstration is my robot. And to clarify, the robot has a drive mechanism here and here. The driving mechanism must be on top of the quad platform. The tires can be touching down, on their side, upside down. As long as the referee looking above, looking down, the driving mechanisms are on top of the quad, it receives a score. If the driving mechanism is off the edge, there's no score. If the driving mechanism is on the top, but the robot is hanging over, because the driving mechanism is on top, they would receive a score. Now, if by chance the driving mechanism is on top, but it's still touching the mat, there's no score. The intent of this mission is for the robot to be on top, and to help teams define what that means, the driving mechanism is the focal point for the referee to determine the position of the robot in conjunction with the quad platform. Okay? Just remember, there can be an attachment to help the robot climb. There can be ramps or different things to aid in the climbing of the robot. But as long as the ramp is not attached to the robot, it's not considered part of the robot. So the referee will judge the placement at the end of the match based on the drive motors of the robot. Some robots may have multiple drives. So if they have more than one drive, like say they got tires driving forward and then it rotates the robot in some manner, and then you've got a second set of driving motors, both sets of driving motors must be on top of the quad to count. Okay? So in this demonstration here, we're going to go back to the score sheet. We're going to say the driving motor is on the quad and the minifig cannot be attached but is placed with the robot. So for the score sheet, you would record robot on quad with minifig. If by chance the minifig's not present, the third choice robot on quad, no minifig, will be marked. And if by chance the robot and the minifig are not on the quad, you would mark the final one, no robot, no minifig on quad. So we'll go over that again. First choice, minifig only on quad. Second choice, robot with minifig on quad. Third choice, robot on quad, no minifig. Fourth choice, no robot, no minifig on quad. Now remember, when it comes to the minifig, the minifig cannot be attached to the robot. So if you turn the robot over and the minifig is attached, that is not allowed. You would give them no score and mark no robot, no minifig on quad. The minifig can be attached to, or the minifig can be secured to the robot via a seat belt or some kind of container, but it cannot be physically attached as if we were taking the minifig and attaching it to another Lego. This kind of attachment is not allowed. Okay. Now that completes the scoring of the match for the referee in the score sheet. I will go over a couple more definitions for in, out, on, and above in the next section. Again, if you do have questions with respect to how to score, take the time to review the documents for the Bodyworks Challenge. There's documents with pictures that show the placement of the mission object at the start of the match and the placement of the mission object to count for a score. So if you still have some questions, review the mission objects, the physical PDF document that has pictures that'll show you a specific location for the start of the mission object and the score of the mission object. Alright, we'll move on to the next section. In this section of the training, I'd like to go over a few definitions to clarify how to score the performance of the robot during a match. Knowledge of the general rules is very important at this point. A lot of the things that I'm going to discuss will impact what is considered inside the safe zone, outside the safe zone, and how the robot can act on the different mission objects. So if you have a copy of the general rules, again, these can be found online. There's a PDF linked up at the Bodyworks page. And most of these items impact general rules from general rule number 20 up to in the mid-30s. Okay, and this is just in response to different questions and clarifications from referees and coaches over the years. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll define what the safe zone is. The safe zone is the square, and it's the outside edge of the black line is considered the border of the safe zone. The teams can manipulate the robot with their hand. They can interact with the robot attachments, mission objects, retrievables, deliverables with their hands at this time. Any activity within the safe zone, any interaction between the robot and the physical hands, body of the team members is allowed within the safe zone. To help the students with the safe zone, the extension of safe zone. Now the extension of safe zone is usually a chair. It may be a desk. It's at the discretion of the regional host what is considered the extension of safe zone. The extension of safe zone should be mobile. So in other words, if it's a chair or desk, it should be of a size that team members may move it to a location around the board as they wish. They may remove the chair or desk from the board completely if they so wish. But the extension of safe zone is just another tool for the students to use as they interact with the robot so that they can place mission objects, attachments, and other parts for the robot. Now, when we consider what is in the safe zone and what is out of the safe zone, I'm going to place my robot. Looking at the robot, the robot is considered in the safe zone as long as all the touching points on this robot here, we've got the little ball and we've got our rubber tires. So we take the robot and put it in the safe zone. Now, the robot may extend beyond the black line as long as it does not touch the mat outside of the black line. So for a referee, the simplest way to see if something's touching is you take a piece of paper, your score sheet, and you run it underneath the Legos if you are concerned that attachment may be touching outside the mat. But any part of the robot may be on the black line and touch the black line. If, for example, the tires are outside of the black line, that's considered outside of the black line, and as soon as the team member hits start, the referee will instruct the kids of a touch penalty because they're going to have to restart the robot outside the safe zone. I'm sorry, take that back. We'll cut that out. If the referee recognizes that the robot is outside of the safe zone, the referee will, and the students start the robot, the referee will instruct the kids that the robot was outside. They'll have to restart the robot without a touch penalty because the robot is still in the safe zone. The referee will instruct the students to move the robot back such that there's no touching point outside. And I'm using this paper for demonstration. As a referee, I wouldn't do this for every time. Just maybe once to get to reassure yourself that the robot isn't touching. But the student should start the robot inside the safe zone. Okay? So as the robot leaves the safe zone, notice that the touching items are outside the black line. However, you've got your little touch device and your cords extending beyond the back half of the robot. They are still in. So a team member may still touch the robot without touch penalty. So in this demonstration, if I touch my robot, I can touch it, reposition it without touch penalty. Now, the robot progresses outside. So in your video, notice that visually looking from above, looking down, the robot is completely outside. At this point, the robot is considered outside of the safe zone, and should a team member touch the robot, the referee will instruct the team to start the robot back in the safe zone. For touching the robot, they will be assessed a touch penalty, and they will have to begin the run over. Let's go back to this touch penalty. If the robot was delivering the white blood cells, I touched the robot. The referee will assess a touch penalty, notify the team to restart the robot in the safe zone, and because the robot was controlling the white blood cells, the referee will take the white blood cells from the robot, from the team's possession, and position them on the mat roughly the location that the touch penalty was assessed. Okay? Now let's take it from another perspective. I got the red blood cells, and the team was trying to recover the red blood cells back to the safe zone. Team member touches it here. The referee will inform the students that there was a touch penalty. They'll have to start over, and the team will lose score of the red blood cells, and the referee will position them roughly the location that they were on the mat. So whether it's a retrievable or a deliverable object, if a touch penalty is assessed, the team starts the robot back in the safe zone. The deliverable or retrievable would be placed on the mat in roughly the location that the touch penalty was assessed. So for this year, deliverables would include the eye, the heart, the kidneys, or I should say kidney stones, and the bone marrow. It could also include the retrievables of the blood samples, possibly the red blood cells, or possibly even the torn muscles. So anytime that a team has a deliverable or retrievable that is being controlled by the robot, and they touch the robot outside of the safe zone, those items are taken from the team members and placed on the mat in roughly the location where the referee assesses the touch penalty. Now, let's see another demonstration here. I'm going to move these out of the way. So, my team has the robot. My team has decided to deliver the bone marrow to the to the pelvis. Okay? I'm going out here and I'm delivering them. I touch my robot. Referee will position bone marrow on the mat right there. Team starts over, touch penalty assessed. One bone marrow is taken from the team. Next scenario. I'm pushing the bone marrow out with my robot, and the robot is still in. The robot's controlling the bone marrow. Team member touches the robot, still in. The students can replace the robot back in the safe zone and the bone marrow without a touch penalty. Okay? Now I'm going to switch. I got my red blood cells, and because of the definition of the mission, they had to be in a petri dish, so I'm going to put them in a petri dish. My robot is outside. The robot is controlling the petri dish with the red blood cells in it. Okay? I touch the robot. I am outside the safe zone. I touch the robot. There is a touch penalty assessed. The bone marrow will stay in roughly the position they were at the time of the touch penalty. The team must recover the robot back to the safe zone without the bone marrow. Or, I'm sorry, without the red blood cells. Okay? Let's take this another step. Robot's coming back, controlling the red blood cells. The plane is broken. The cord is in. The robot controls the red blood cells. So because the cord is in, the robot is in. If the robot is in and controlling the blood samples there, then the blood samples are in because the cord is in, the robot's in, the blood sample's in. So a team member may take possession of the robot and the blood samples with no touch penalty. So just to reiterate, if the robot is in and it's controlling different items, whether retrievable or deliverable, as long as the robot is in, all of those items are considered in. Team members may take possession, and even though they lose control when they take possession of the robot, it is still considered in. Okay? This follows under the benefit of the doubt kind of for the kids. You know, the robot's controlling it, and they really can't grab it all at one time because of the mechanism. So it's all in. Okay? So that is what is considered in the safe zone and out of the safe zone. The key is the position of the tires or the touching objects and the attachments of the robot. Now, one thing you may ask, the attachments are attached to the robot. So if the robot is pushing that, in other words, it's not attached, it's not considered an attachment. So therefore the team cannot take possession of the attachment unless it's considered controlling. Okay? And that's something that you as a referee will decide. Okay? There is some gray area that you as a referee need to, just make a good decision for the students. The biggest problem is general rule number 31. And we'll go over general rule number 31. And for the most part, that's going to impact any mission object, retrievable or deliverable, fixed in position or not. And general 31 pretty much states that the robot cannot act on a mission object until it leaves the safe zone. So by definition, this is considered in, outside. So once it's considered outside, it has left the safe zone. At that point, it can act on a mission object. Now for mission number 2, operating room prep, they have to deliver the IV stand to the outline. So as this robot continues out, and I'm going to stand this vertical to represent my IV stand and load it in the robot. For this to count, the robot is in. If I leave the IV stand at this point, it violates Rule 31 and there is no score awarded. There's no touch penalty, there's no communication to the team until the match is over that they violated Rule 31. So in this instance, the robot chugs along, chugs along, chugs along. The IV stand's touching the outline on the mat. The cords are still in. It backs up. Again, it violates Rule 31. Let's reset it. Come out here. Robot chugs along. At this point, the cords and every part of the robot is outside of the safe zone. Then it backs up. At this point, with the IV stand touching the mat, yes, the team does get a score. So that scenario is duplicated throughout the entire mat. So, teams can come out here and deliver the eye to the eye socket. But if for some reason their robot is really, really long and the cords are in and they're able to deliver the eye socket, the cords are in, so it violates Rule 31. So the robot must be all the way out. Now, a robot can go out, turn, and move to the side. That's acceptable. A robot can go straight out and straight back. That's acceptable. But the one thing coaches have asked me repeatedly, can the robot go out, outside of the safe zone, and then back up and deliver at this point? The answer is no. That violates Rule 31. Even though the robot left the safe zone, it has re-entered. So it's considered in the safe zone at this point. So therefore, if the robot and the run of the robot was in this manner where it leaves the safe zone, returns, it's considered in, so at this point it would still violate Rule 31. It would have to leave and come all the way around like that to be acceptable. Alright? So that's in and out of the safe zone, deliverables and retrievables, touch penalties, and General Rule 31. Okay? The other thing, and I'm going to move the robot out of the way at this point. The other thing is there's the words touching and non-touching. If this year's challenge will say touch the mat for the red blood cells. Alright? So therefore the red blood cells are allowed to touch the mat. For the blood work, it says not touching. So they must have a Lego of some item separating them from themselves and the mat to count. The white blood cells are the same way. They cannot touch the mat. Okay? So that's touching. touching, not touching. Okay? The design of the Petri dish or other device is up to the team's discretion, as long as the retrievable or deliverable object is not touching the mat, it's acceptable. If in the action of the robot one of the items falls out and now is touching, that touching item would not score. Okay, so that's touching and not touching. The other thing we got is in or on, and for the heart, at some point it says in. I'm going to turn this. So it is completely in when it's basically resting on the mat and it's inside the parameters of the base. It could be upside down or right side up, but as long as it's completely in. Now you'll notice, Doug, it's above it, but it's not touching it. So we're going to give the teams the benefit of the doubt. Since it's not touching the base, it's in. Okay? On would be resting on. Okay, so it's on or above. Okay, and I think that's about it for that. The other thing we discussed was mission 15 and the bacteria. And the bacteria follows a similar rule as the robot in the safe zone, in that its design makes it teeter, and it's considered in the lab, just like you would consider the safe zone and the relationship with the robot. It's considered in the robot would be considered in, hanging over the black line, so therefore the bacteria is considered in the lab, hanging over the black line as well. So as far as the bacteria goes, follow the same rules as in and out as you would with the robot at the safe zone. Okay. The only other thing that was a question was the would have been I think that's it actually. There's always some other questions. Strategy, communication with your teams. As a referee, you are an impartial observer. The students should come prepared to compete at the tournament. You as a referee are an impartial observer. So when team members come up before the match, they can ask you some questions. They should respectfully ask you questions, and obviously you should respectfully respond to them. Many elementary students especially have a difficulty communicating with an adult, so try to make them comfortable. Just lost train of thought there. Many times you lose a train of thought. Students will get to the board and the robot will start chugging away and it'll get stuck. So this refers to a touch penalty. With the elementary kids, many times they can't reach it. If the robot is out on the mat and it gets stuck, the team members can ask you for help. As a referee, recover the robot for them and place it in the safe zone. But because they asked you for help, you do have to assess them a touch penalty. Also, many times the younger kids, the robot will go out there and it'll get stuck on a mission object. It'll get stuck against the wall. And then team members will stand there looking at each other like, what should I do? As a referee, look at them, acknowledge that you see there's trouble, but don't act in any way until a team member asks you to help them. Don't verbally communicate, kids, you need to go get your robot. Kids, try this. Kids, do that. Don't offer a strategy. That is something that the coach had the ability to do during practice time back at school. So be an impartial observer, be polite and respectful with your students, and be impartial as to the performance of the robot. The other thing is, if you are in doubt with how to score a certain mission object, ask for assistance from obviously the 2 scorekeepers at the table, or 2 referees at the table. But if you're still unsure, contact the head referee to come over and give you his opinion on how to score it. If by chance that you're still in doubt, the head referee should make a judgment call. And if there's a judgment call made, make sure the judgment call is in such a way that it benefits the student. Okay? And other than that, I think that's pretty much a lot of the areas of concern different coaches and referees have had over the year. So, and we went over the definition of the safe zone, in and out of the safe zone, touch penalties, Rule 31, and a few other items. I believe that covers the majority of the concerns I've had over the last few years. After you review this video, if you still have a few questions, feel free to contact me. Contact me at doug.rcx@gmail.com, and I'll respond to you as quick as I can. If you're at the tournament and you have a question, just go ahead and get with the head referee and the regional host and make a decision on your own to benefit the students. All right. Thank you for giving me this opportunity for the training, and good luck.